Everybody, it's Evante. I'm starting a new series on my channel, which may seem like a shock because I just started my channel, but when I get into content strategy and you'll see some videos on that you can go watch, you'll see exactly why I'm doing this. But today we're talking about the series itself. This series is called The Brand Takedown. Here I'm gonna be breaking down ads. Usually the way that we kind of understand what a brand is or we get to identify with the brand is through their advertisements. And so I'm gonna break down some ads from our famous brands, more famous brands in America, as well as some historical ads that have really shaped the game. Today, I'm gonna go ahead and knock it off with one of the more popular brands. Obviously, they are not a supporter of this channel. This has nothing to do with it. We're gonna talk about Apple today. Now, Apple is a massive company. In my mind, I call them a fashion company, not a technology company. Why? Because a lot of their features are older, right? When they introduce a new feature to your phone, it's something that's been tested by other markets, by other groups, which is why we usually hear about Android having features years before Apple ever does. But by the time it shows up on your Apple device, they know exactly how it's gonna work and they make it a part of the aesthetic and about the vibe. That user experience is perfect over on Apple, which is why I continue to use it. And like I said, this isn't a supported thing or anything like that. But when we look at how Apple does their ads, they do a really great job in inviting people into the moment, into the space, even if it's not always extremely reasonable. Let's take a look at the Olivia Rodrigo shot on an iPhone 15 commercial.
1, 2, 3.
So I write him all these letters, then I throw them in the trash, cause I miss the way he kisses and the way he made me laugh.
Okay, pause. Right off the top, I love when like in the commercial, you're gonna go ahead and start off by like showing the gear that's being used here. And a lot of people are gonna miss that. They're just gonna be focused on Olivia, and like that's the point. But really what we're saying real quick is that like, yeah, this is shot on an iPhone, but like there's a whole production crew around this. Just minor note, right? So what Apple is doing is like they're being honest, but we have 30 seconds to convince you to buy this phone. So let's keep going. Let's see how they continue to make this seem like it's something that anybody can do.
Pour my little heart out, but as I'm hitting send, I picture all the faces.
Okay, so like now we've gone past what you can shoot and we've gone into what you can edit. So this is the fun thing with Apple, and anytime you're doing with video, right? Your camera's just a camera, right? Like what you're recording right now is all, so like shot on iPhone, it's just this part. Like this is shot on an iPhone. My editing is done in something completely different. You're not gonna have 4 Olivia Rodrigos pop up unless she's a clone, and that's a whole other conversation in my mind. But like, just keep that in mind, like when you're seeing this kind of stuff, that yes, editing is being done, but again, that's not what Apple's selling here. They're selling the camera, they're selling the lens, the phone.
My disappointed friends.
Okay, loving the effects, love the vibe of it, like just kind of like coming in, the pop, going again through the gear, but hold on, wait, was that a window? All right, so like, this is the fun thing about ads, right? Is that when you actually take a look at a 30-second clip and you're like, how realistic is this? How is this really playing out? It's not very realistic. That's not the point, right? The point is that you are seeing a device that you use every single day being put into these circumstances and coming out just fine, right? It smashes through a window, it's filming it, it's got it, it's good enough for Olivia Rodrigo to use, it's good enough for you to use for your family pictures, and it works. Let's continue to see how it goes. All right, so now we're getting into more of the production stuff. We're saying, not only can you shoot this commercial on an iPhone, but you could also shoot a music video on an iPhone. We're beginning to like tap into Olivia, not just as like a celebrity, but as a brand themselves who has to create their own content, and acknowledging that like as an artist, you have to perform and you have to create music videos and a whole bunch of other stuff. And all of that can be shot on an iPhone. Love that. Cut, nice little touch just to make you feel again like you're behind the scenes of a video being shot. I think it's brilliant. Apple knows what they're doing when it comes to creating ads. They have been knocking it out of the park with ads for a long time. I think it's also total bullcrap, right? Like you having an iPhone 15, and you know this, in the back of your mind, you know this, that by you having the newest iPhone does not mean that you are suddenly going to become a cinematographer. It may mean that your photos look a little bit more clear. But that whole ad isn't about clear photos. It's about being able to produce content at the same level of a top tier musical performing artist in today's standards. And that's the brand, right? The brand is saying that through our luxurious product, you will be able to do what the stars do. And like, yeah, and people are like, you may watch this and go, wait, is that really the truth? That's exactly what the brand is communicating through that 38-second piece. But let's take a look at the company, right? So like there's a little bit more behind here that I want to dive into. You know, company-wise, Apple has been in the game since 1976. Of course, they brought us the iPhone, the iPad, the Mac, the iPod, RIP to one of my favorite products of all time, and a lot of other products that are seen as groundbreaking. But one really important thing you'll recognize with Apple when you look at them is that they're not innovation leaders. They're user experience leaders. I look at Apple more like a fashion company. These are guys who see the trend, they see the practices, but it's never bleeding edge stuff. What I mean by that is they're never going to use technology that is going to radically change the game that hasn't already been introduced. When Apple shows up with something, they're not saying it's brand new, they're saying we're the ones doing it. And that's a very different message in a space where a lot of people focus on what's new. And that's what makes a big difference and why Apple kind of stands out is they're not really worried about what's new. They'll get to it eventually, but we really see is they say we focus on you, the user, we focus on making sure you have a good experience, and we'll take our time to make sure that we develop that experience. That is more like a handcrafted luxury brand than it ever is like a computer brand. Now, this doesn't mean that Apple's been like loving us and taking care of us while they have this amazing brand around caring for their user and all this stuff. Apple has had a whole bunch of issues, especially when it comes to labor practices and environmental impacts. You know, Apple was criticized for the working conditions at its supplier factories, particularly in China. And reports have highlighted extraordinary long hours, low pay, harsh measures, and contributing to a series of actual worker suicides. See, this is the thing with brands, is that brands and companies aren't the same thing. This brand cares about you, but the company doesn't care about its own employees. In 2019, Apple was named in a lawsuit that alleged the use of child labor in cobalt mines in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Now, despite some improvements in these areas, they continue to struggle. For instance, investigations have revealed ongoing issues with excessive overtime and inadequate wages at Foxconn factories, which is over in China. Also, Apple has been accused of environmental negligence, receiving poor ratings for environmental reporting due to a lack of future-dated quantified targets. Essentially, what we've seen with Apple is that they're still not telling us anything. They've created this really amazing illusion of a brand that cares deeply about people. And as long as you're one of their users, that's the case. But if you're one of their actual employees or you work on the hardware side of their stuff, you may see some really nasty things. And it's not a company that is equitably caring for everybody. And so what does that mean when we're using their products? Is that while we buy into a brand that teaches us that we can be like the next creator, it's coming at a cost. I have an iPhone 15. This is what that's being shot on right now. And it makes me think about the cobalt mines in these pieces, and it makes it hard to try to find ethical options in this space. But I think it's more important to understand that when this brand is showing up in front of you in that 30 seconds, 15 seconds, 45 seconds on your TV, on your YouTube, wherever, that they're lying to you and that they are engaged in as many harmful practices as a lot of other companies. That's been Apple's takedown for today. That's been the takedown for Apple today. Thank you guys so much for joining in. Can't wait to do another one of these, and I'll be back soon.